Hey everyone, so today we'll be going over the alternate fingerings and common trill fingerings a middle schooler and a high schooler should know. So our first note, E or B, is the standard fingering using two pinkies. The alternate fingering only uses the right pinky on this bottom key here. So here's the normal and here's the alternate. And I'll give you an example. Now this fingering is most commonly used if you're trying to play, say, a B into a C sharp. Now normally if you play a normal B and a normal C sharp, you'd have to slide the pinky. You don't want that. So if you use the alternate B fingering, you can go B to C sharp with no pinky slide. So our second fingering from E, now we're going to talk about F. The standard fingering for F is just the right pinky. Now the alternate fingering is, instead of the right pinky, we're going to take the left pinky and put it on this key hiding in the back here. Now this is the most common alternate fingering you're going to use. You're going to use it a lot when you're playing, say, an A flat to an F, or in the upper register an E flat to a C. This is going to be used very commonly. Our third fingering is our from F to F sharp, or Clarinet C sharp. Now our standard F sharp fingering is just our left pinky on this key right here. Our alternate fingering, which is a bit uncommonly used, is our right pinky on this key here that we don't get to use a lot. Now an example of a passage where this fingering would be applicable is if you're trying to play say E flat and then go to alternate C, and then if you have to play C sharp from alternate C, you can't do that because you have to lift the pinky up to C sharp. So a way to get around that is E flat, alternate C sharp. Now those are the standard alternate fingerings allow you to work through almost any passage on the clarinet. And the reason we have all these alternate fingerings is there is no alternate fingering for A flat and E flat. This is the only finger you get on the right pinky. For the standard model clarinet, that is. Some newer clarinets do have an alternate A flat and E flat, but the clarinet you're most likely playing on does not have that. Now next up, some alternate fingerings. We have alternate B. So our standard B and F sharp. Our standard B, which is just the middle finger, doesn't work very well if we're playing a chromatic run, say B flat A. We'd have to flip. You don't want to flip. You want to avoid flipping. Now to avoid flipping, you can play B flat, and then our alternate B fingering is this key right here, this banana key. So B flat, B, C is much smoother. And so you don't want to flip. And that's why we don't want to flip. That also applies to F and F sharp. And next up we have the same kind of situation for E flat. Now there are three ways to finger E flat. The standard way is, thumb 1, 2, and right hand on this trigger right here. This is the standard E flat you want to default to. In any situation, you don't need the other E flats because it's accessible from every note on the clarinet: C to E flat, G to E flat. The other fingering for E flat is this little banana key right here. Now, the reason we don't want to use this one all the time is because you can't just play C to E flat without sliding, or G to E flat without sliding, which is why the side trigger here is the standard E flat. You would use this key, E flat key, in situations of chromatic runs. So if you're playing C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, that would be that key is very useful for making it quick and smooth. And so now the third E flat fingering is very rare. It doesn't get used that often, but this is your standard E flat. This is your chromatic E flat. The third E flat fingering is just thumb and 1, and then you take this finger and it's this one. If you're trying to trill from, say, B flat to E flat, that's where this would be applicable. And it has some other neat uses as well. Now the last common alternate fingering is your alternate F sharp. So if you're playing a chromatic run from F sharp to G, you wouldn't want to do this kind of flipping motion because that's not exactly smooth. So the alternate F sharp fingering is you finger F and you add these two side keys right here, 1 and 2, both of them. And it makes it much easier to go instead of trying to. It's not as smooth. Now that the F sharp is also common for trills. If you're trilling from F to F sharp, you just go boo. Now some common trill fingerings you should know. The intonation of these will be off, so you should only use these next fingerings for trills where it's less noticeable, and you should find the one where it's in tune for you, because oftentimes there are multiple fingerings for these trills. So throat tone F, this one F right here, to G, to just open G. Now trilling with your thumb is a little bit awkward, so there's an alternate that makes it a bit faster. It's most commonly used in the Mendelssohn Scherzo. So it would be F, and then the trill is you finger the A flat key right here. So it sounds kind of bad, but when you trill it, it sounds better. Which is more smooth than trying to trill F to G like yeah. Now our next one is trying to trill from the lower register above the break. So trying to trill A to B, if you did it normal fingerings, you'd have to go yeah, which would not work at all. So trilling A to B, there's an alternate fingering for that. You'd finger A, and then A to B is this top key right here. Not the bottom one right here, the top one, which is the reason these two keys are here for trill fingerings. Now it's a little out of tune, but it's less noticeable when you're trilling. Now A to B, there's also B flat to B. So you finger B flat, and instead of using the top one, you use the lower one, which is B flat to B. Now there's also this throat tone B flat to C. So instead of having to do that, which wouldn't really work, you finger your normal B flat, and then you add both of these top keys right here. And so those are your typical alternate trill fingerings for notes going above the break, or for trills going above the break. Now, for the more advanced player, we have some trill fingerings from our clarion register into our altissimo register, our high register. So we have C to C sharp. Now, instead of using the typical C to C sharp, which would not work well if you're trying to trill, we will use our typical C into the top key right here, which is the way to trill. It's a bit unstable, which is why it only works for trills. Another alternate C to C sharp fingering, there's two, is the two side keys right here, like F to F sharp, C to C sharp. It's the same exact concept. And that will be your standard C to C sharp trill fingering. Now there's also two fingerings for C to altissimo D. Now the first one is just like your F to G fingering. It's this key right here, but instead you finger C. And that's used in the Messager Solo des Conquerors if you're playing that. And another way to trill that is to use this bottom key right here, these top two, and finger C. So those are all the trill fingerings you should know, and that should cover basically most things you'll encounter across repertoire. Now there's some altissimo alternate fingerings for more advanced high school players, people trying to break into all county, all state. These are some things you should know. So the first one we have is what's commonly called long F. It's an alternate fingering for a normal F, which would be 2, 3 of this key. So long F, what that does is it's every tone hole pushed down, and you add this. And now, the benefits of long F is that it's a lot easier to get out, and the fingering is much more helpful when you're playing across like something like an octave leap, like a Clarinet F to an altissimo F. Using long F is a lot smoother. Oops, sorry. It's a lot smoother to get that leap through. Now, G, altissimo G, is a very important one because there's a lot of different fingerings for this note. And each fingering has its own applicable situation in which it's easier to play. So our standard G is 2, and thumb register key, of course. 2, 1, 2, this. That's our standard G. And this is for tuning. If you're flat on the note, press this down and it'll make it sharper. Sorry about that squeak at the end. So that's your standard G fingering. It's applicable in most situations. Now another fingering, the Beethoven fingering, is instead of using this middle one, use this top one right here. And it produces the same note. It's a little easier to get out. And if you're doing some kind of note like, say, F to G, it'd be a lot easier to finger that. So that's two different G's right here. Now the next G is called the claw. It's a bit different. It's thumb register, of course. 1, 3, 1, 3, and then you add this for tuning, and you can see why it's called the claw. Now this G is really good when you're trying to jump from altissimo D to G. It makes it very easy to get that interval out. And then our fourth fingering is overblown G. So overblown G is you finger a B and then you squeak it up to the next register. Not actually squeak, but position your tongue like you're playing altissimo and it should come out. Now this G would be used in, say, a chromatic run, like in the Messager. Da 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 da. It's a lot easier to get out than the standard G. So those are the 4 G fingerings that you should be using most often in different situations. Now the last thing we're going to cover is an altissimo F sharp alternate fingering. So like the fact that you can overblow a G, you can also overblow an F sharp by, instead of fingering a B, fingering a B flat and then overblowing it. And that's F sharp, and this is G. Now this is applicable in situations where, say, you're going from a Clarinet F to an F sharp. It's a lot easier to finger this and get it out than do that. So if you're looking for more advanced altissimo fingerings, those are the common ones you should know. They'll be applicable to a lot of repertoire you play. And that's all I have. Thanks for watching.